Phantasy Star started off as Sega's answer to Dragon Quest, which had been a huge hit for Nintendo's Famicom in Japan. Development on the game consisted of a very small team. Kotaro Hayashida of Alex Kidd fame worked as the scenario writer. Tokuhiko Owabo composed the game's music. Rieko Kodama was the main art designer responsible for character designs, 2D maps, and backgrounds from battles. Naoto Oshima and Yuji Naka would later become more well known for their work on Sonic the Hedgehog, but Oshima was responsible for various other designs, including party member Odin, as Rieko Kodama felt she wasn't very good at drawing muscular men. Yuji Naka was primarily responsible for programming the whole game, including the 3D dungeon maps. As the team developed the game, the idea was to go against every other RPG convention at the time. Phantasy Star starred a female protagonist, dungeons were done in the first-person perspective, giving them a 3D effect, and monsters were animated during battle. Not only was the game's main protagonist a girl, but the entire game's setting was very different from most other RPGs of the time. Games like Dragon Quest were set in a medieval fantasy time. Phantasy Star, however, took notes from Star Wars with its own settings, giving everything a futuristic look while also keeping some of the old-time fantasy aspects, such as having Odin act like a warrior and Noah as a wizard. Obvious nods to Star Wars include soldiers wearing outfits that were nearly identical to stormtrooper outfits, the Land Rover and hovercraft resembling ships, one of which was needed to cross a desert filled with giant carnivorous sandworms and pits, aliens that resembled Jawas, and even a lightsaber and laser gun as weapons. On top of all this, rather than being confined to just one world, players had to traverse between 3 different worlds via space travel, as it was also the norm for RPGs back in the day just to focus on one world that usually resembled Earth. By 1994, the Master System and its games were becoming difficult to find as Sega had discontinued the system around the early 90s in Japan. 4 months after the release of Phantasy Star 4, the end of the millennium, Sega had released a port of the original Phantasy Star for the Mega Drive. This was done to give Phantasy Star fans all 4 titles on one platform, while also giving them a chance to get the first game in case they never owned a Mark III Master System or power-based converter for their Mega Drive. Despite being a more technically superior system, the Mega Drive port of Phantasy Star did not contain the FM audio, playing exactly like it would on a standard Master System. However, a compilation disc titled Sega Ages Phantasy Star Collection, which contained all 4 games, did contain the original FM audio. Neither the North American Genesis, European Mega Drive, or their respective Saturns received either of these ports.